So let's actually do one so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me just get this to view as full screen. So this is our new qualification analysis worksheet. It's like I said earlier in the program, you know, this form did not have all these bells and whistles. We waited to have this available for sale when we really knew it hit all the main points that the lenders do and that we worked through over the time. So this form has really been awesome. Sorry, I had to get a drink of water there. So let's go ahead and do our first one. Let's go ahead and do a Social Security debtor. This gentleman only gets Social Security, and we want to, our form, we want to know, how did you verify the borrower's information? We want to know when someone else looks at this form or we go back to it, that did we get this information from the note, the mortgage statement, the proof of claim? So, and on this one, we'll just go ahead and say we did have the note and we were able to verify that he was the sole borrower. Then we're going to go ahead and choose Bank of America as his lender. So you'll see all these arrows tab down and give you a full selection of the major lenders so that you can choose the one that your client has, or you can merely use that blank if it's a private lender and you could enter that information. So we wanted to be able to do it any way that we need to, and I'm just going to go back and choose Bank of America. Then we also wanted to know, you know, we want to verify, is this loan owned by Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, or is it a non-government loan? So what we're going to do as a process of elimination is our form, if you push Fannie Mae, it's going to shoot us out to the Fannie Mae lookup tool. So all you have to do is go ahead and enter the borrower's information, their first name, last name, address. If it's a condo, put the unit number, city, state, zip code, and the last 4 digits of the Social Security number, and then you can get the results on whether this loan is owned by Fannie Mae. And that's important because we want to know that if, you know, if a client comes in and they're really upside down and they're like, you know, I don't want to do this unless my lender is going to forgive on my loan, then if you discover it is Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, then you can have that talk with them that, hey, you know, Fannie owns your loan. It doesn't look like you're going to get a forgiveness. You know, you're still probably eligible for HAMP or a traditional Fannie Mae, but, you know, is that a deal breaker? And you know, the only problem with that is that, as I just explained, there's been so many more judgments that have been entered. If we say today it's not possible, will it be possible next week? Because there's a lot of media coverage about why isn't Fannie and Freddie and the government-owned loans doing more to, you know, really help these homeowners that are underwater. So sometimes we tell our clients, you know, let's go for it. Let's see what you get offered. And who knows, during that period if something will change and you might get a forgiveness. So this is just ever moving, ever flowing. But the good news is there's lots of options. So here then we could also shoot out to Freddie Mac. You know, let's go ahead and we could check them both out. So this is Freddie Mac's website that you could fill in the information of your client, first name, last name, address, and it'll tell you whether Freddie Mac owns the loan. So then we'll go back to the form, and let's just go ahead and say that it wasn't Fannie or Freddie. And we would look at their mortgage statements to see if there's any mention of FHA, because in most instances people pay a mortgage insurance premium on FHA. So we would look at the statement to see if there's any mention of that. And if there's not, then we would, you know it's not. And then VA, sometimes your client knows it's a VA loan, or the mortgage or note could indicate that. So on this instance, we're just going to say it's a non-government loan, that we checked everything, all of our resources, and we determined that it's not a government-owned loan. Although I have to tell you that sometimes even if Fannie says it's not, there's 1 out of 100 that comes back positive. But at least you can do the best you can to see if it is. Then we've added a line for the property address because we realize that some of our clients have multiple properties. So we want everything on the form to where it's, you know, all the information's there. We don't have to look at something else or handwrite something, so that when we pull this form up next time, it tells us all the details and we know what we're working with. Then it's important to know the mortgage type. You know, is it a fixed rate? Is it interest only? Or is it adjustable? One of the main issues with this is that if the loan is an interest-only loan, then if your ARM adjusts within the next 120 days, they have to compare the current payment under a principal and interest payment, what it's going to adjust to, not just the interest only. But if it does not adjust in the next 120 days, then they're not going to look at the full payment. So that's why you want to look and see what loan type you have. And you know, or if it's a LIBOR index adjustable, a lot of clients need to get out of that, and the lenders really try to get them into a good fixed rate is what these programs are about. So then we also want to know what type of property is this. Is it a principal residence? Is it occupied by a tenant with rent? Because you can modify rental properties. Is it occupied by the dependent without rent? The HAMP rules say that under HAMP Tier 2, they can help people where their dependents reside in the property even if rent's not being paid. And then you can also modify property even if it's vacant, but it is available to be rented. The main thrust is that as long as the property has not been abandoned or condemned, it qualifies for some type of modification. So on this example, we're just going to go ahead and push that it's the principal residence of the borrower. So then on this gentleman, he doesn't have any gross monthly income. He's on Social Security. So this is our little add button when we have different types of sources of income. And we have a little note here for you that rent is weighted at 75%. So if your client received rent of $1,000, and I'm just going to do it as an example real quick for you, then if they paid $1,000 a month and you clicked you want to use the rent, then boom, our calculator form is only going to give you $750 in the total monthly gross income line because that's all the lender is going to use. So we're going to go ahead and unclick that, and we'll go ahead and choose. He really has Social Security and it's not taxed. Now you need to look at their tax return to see if the taxes, Social Security is taxed or not. That'll be on the front page of their 1040. Because if it's not taxed, then the lender is going to gross it up. So in this example, our client's Social Security was $1,124.90 is what he receives a month. So we're going to click the button, and this mouse has been giving me trouble with it being full screen. Let's see. There. So see here, our form calculated upwards of 125%. So no longer do you have to grab your calculator, figure out what's 125% of their untaxed Social Security. It's going to do it for you. So on any non-taxable income, they will gross it up. So that's been an issue in some of the mediations. Attorneys don't understand why the lender gave such a high payment. And then they realize, oh, wait a minute, they're grossing up the non-taxable income is why they're coming up with a higher number. So our form, after you enter that amount, and this is his only total gross income, he doesn't have other sources, so our form tells you that 31% of his total gross income is $435.90 a month. Now let's compare that to his current monthly payment. And let me just add at this point that the top part of our form, this is where we're currently at. The lower form is going to show you what we anticipate getting if the lender approves the loan mod. So on this individual, his current mortgage payment is $629.55. He pays annual insurance of $424.43. So another neat thing our form does is it'll let you calculate the difference. If you put in a yearly amount, you just push yearly, and boom, it's going to tell you what the monthly amount is. So that's kind of nice because on tax and insurance, you know, if you have a mortgage statement, it would tell you the monthly amount. But if you have their insurance bill or a tax bill, you're going to have yearly amount. So that way you can take those numbers and easily do it with the form with just a click of the button. So $751 is his annual taxes. So I'm going to ask it to calculate that as a yearly amount, and that's $62.58. Now, he is escrowed, so I'm going to go ahead and click the escrow button. So that's going to remove the math from the total monthly payment. he doesn't have a homeowners association, or I would add it there. And so then so now we know, boom, our form said, does he qualify, or at least he's eligible for making homes affordable on the first step? Yes, because his current monthly payment right now is $193.65 more than 31% of his gross income. So his initial DTI is 44.77. So under HAMP, he does qualify. And then this is the notation that I mentioned earlier, that if you were trying to do a HAMP Tier 2 and not the Making Homes Affordable, it tells you what Bank of America's current range is for the DTI. But under this gentleman, he qualifies for Making Homes Affordable, so we are just going to target that 31% because his mortgage company is larger than 31%. So his home value is approximately $45,000. Then we also want to fill in, where do we get that information? So if we go and look at this form later, maybe we'll have a more reliable source of verification. So I'm going to go ahead and just say it's from Zillow. But as I go back to the arrow drop down, you could use property tax records. You know, sometimes you have a denial letter, and one of the Consumer Protection Act requirements as the lender is to tell you what the value of a property is. So if you get a denial or approval letter, most lenders are very good about these rules, and they're going to tell you what the value is. Or perhaps you have an appraisal. So I'm just going to click Zillow on this one. Then the debtor's principal balance to Bank of America right now before modification is $67,000. The debtor's delinquent, his arrearages are $33,049.44. So that's going to tell you that the new principal balance the lender would be working with is $100,732. So we also just show here how underwater he is on the property. So he is delinquent, and we're hoping for a forgiveness on this one, but we haven't gotten the perm yet. But let me mention to you that we did set this at 2% over 480 months. Our form is going to default to the most the lender can do. We figure let's just start at the floor, and if we don't need all of that, then we'll have our form change the numbers. So as you see in this column here, the amortization at 2% over 480 months on this much money is $305 monthly payment, and it gives him a debt-to-income ratio when you add in his insurance and taxes is 28.66. So that is a little bit lower than HAMP. So maybe the lender will just increase the interest rate. He'll get a little higher rate till we target that 31%. So, you know, this enables you to see the different options that they can do. And on another example, we're going to go ahead and open up the forgiveness tab. But on this individual, he didn't need it. He just needed just to re-amortize it over a lower interest rate over a longer term. So, so that's how that one ended up. Does anybody have any questions yet? Because feel free to type them in if you do. And what we'll do is, so that's a Social Security debtor, so we'll just go on to a Fannie Mae. So one of the neat things about our form, let me just mention this. If you wanted to save the form, you would just go up, you need to have Adobe Acrobat 11, and that will enable you to save that in the client's folder, and then you can use you'll just have the form that you can use over and over. So this is not a per use worksheet. We're going to sell it to you. It's $4.99 is the introductory rate. I'll go ahead and mention that. And but you can use it as many times as you want. It's up to 5 users in your firm, but you can just save it under that person's file and go on to the next one and just use the form over and over. So if you want to, you can just push the reset form and boom, it clears out the form. So let's do a Fannie Mae individual. This couple owned a pool business, and they had pool tables, so that's what they do for a living. And we verified that they were both on the note when the proof of claim was filed with the court. So Mrs. was on the note. So that's going to open up. When you have a co-borrower, that's going to open up some additional fields for you. We felt like we didn't need to clutter the form unless we had a co-borrower. So that is, and then we're just going to check off that we verified them with the note. Then we are going to verify who they are. Is it a spouse, a parent, sibling, child, close relative? So in this instance, and in most, it's going to be the spouse. Then we also, again, want to go ahead and choose the lender, and their lender was Wells Fargo. So let's go down and find Wells. Then we want to add their address so we know which property we're dealing with. Then we want to know the mortgage type. They had an adjustable rate, and this is for principal residence use. Then we want to go ahead and fill the income in. Mr's not working, but Mrs. owns the business, so she is receiving $1,314 a month. They do have Social Security income. He's on Social Security. And his income, Social Security is actually taxed. He's got some income from his self-employment also. So I'm not going to select the tab, so this won't gross up. It's just going to add it dollar for dollar because he is paying taxes on that Social Security. Then I'm going to go ahead and add another source of income, and he's got self-employment from the pool table business. So he's getting $3,073.29 a month, and we're going to click that since we do have to use all sources of income. And over here, it's going to let us know that 31% of their current gross income is $1,541. Now, let me just point out this nice feature that if you found out, like we had in that other example I talked about earlier, that there wasn't a co-borrower, you could exclude that co-borrower's income by clicking the button, and it'll remove it. So that'll help you see, do you need that income or not. Then the current monthly payment is $2,218.04. We're going to need to know their insurance, and on this one I have the monthly amount is $361.24. Their taxes are $333. They pay a quarterly association fee of $220, so I'm going to put that quarterly amount in and ask the form to do the quarterly. So yes, again, this couple qualifies for making homes affordable because their current gross income is a difference of $676 more than 31% of their gross income. Then I'm going to go ahead and put the value of $260,000, and then the principal balance on this loan is $243,081.49. Then the arrearages are $50,028.71. So they are delinquent for a total unpaid principal balance of $293,110. So if we go ahead and default to our 2% at 480 months, they're at 33%. So they need a little bit more help to qualify. And, we've already stretched them out to 480 months and 2%. So the next item we would do is a forbearance. What could the lender forgive to get us down to qualify? So if they forbeared 30%, which is what the main number that most of the programs hit, like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, then that's what the most is that they will do. But that's good news for these borrowers because in between these two numbers, they're going to target that 31%. And one of the things that they could do is they could change the term of the loan too. They make different options of the waterfall. So usually it's the interest rate, then the term, then the forbearance. So there's all kinds of ways that they can fit people into making this work. So let's see if they forbeared 20%. Then we're at 29.17. So just by playing with it a little bit, we can see that these people will qualify for the loan modification, and they did get a loan mod. So let's go ahead and reset that form. So that was a Fannie Mae HAMP. Then let's do a national mortgage settlement, because like I said, those are really great modifications for people to get. So we're going to say that we verified the loan information that she was the only borrower on the mortgage statement. She was through Bank of America, so she was one of the top 5 servicers with the Department of Justice settlement. Let's, let's go ahead and know that we went to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and it did not come up that they were owned. So therefore, that's a good indication that we are possible to get a forgiveness. Then we would put her property address in here. Then we would select the loan type, and she had an adjustable rate. Then it is her primary residence. And this current borrower makes $3,030.96 a month. So 31% of her gross income is $939. Then her current mortgage payment is $1,938. So she's really having a rough time. In fact, I think she was only able to make like 7 or 8 mortgage payments after she got this loan. This is probably definitely one of those that shouldn't have been given out. Then her insurance is $77.94. Her taxes are $132.33 a month. She doesn't have an HOA. They are escrowed, so we're going to click those buttons. So her front end DTI is 63%. So she definitely qualifies at least for the Making Homes Affordable program. Now the value of her home right now is $172,500. And we'll go ahead and say we got that from Zillow again. Then we're going to take the principal balance that she owes right now is $251,165.82. Now she is really in arrears because this loan is very delinquent. She owes $154,835.17 on behind payments. So she's got a new unpaid principal balance that they're looking at $406 right now. Then we can see that we're going to probably see how high her DTI is. It's 47.5%. So she's really going to need some assistance, whether it's a forbearance or a forgiveness. So let's go ahead and just jump to the forgiveness because it looks like that's what she's going to need. And we can see that, boom, all of a sudden, if they would forgive, that's going to get her down to a much better acceptable range. And if we assume that this is through the National Mortgage Settlement, they're going to do the forgiveness before they look at her interest rate. So we're going to assume that they're going to start bumping up her interest rate to make this work to 31%. So this left column over here is calculating the principal reduction. So it's going to go ahead and calculate down to 198. So then as we go higher with the interest rate, which does happen quite often with these Department of Justice, they could go ahead and give her an interest rate of 4.75, and she'll be very close to that 31%. So as you can see here, we're within just, 939 is her 31%. And she ultimately did get a $207,000 forgiveness, and that's what Bank of America did on this scenario. So sometimes, they really look awful. When you look at this first column to see how are they going to help this borrower, it does look pretty glim. But when they do the forgiveness through these settlements, boom, we've got a nice 31 debt-to-income ratio, and it worked, and she did get this loan mod. So, you can't always, even when we looked at this one, we were very worried that it wasn't going to work, but, we just tell our clients, listen, if you don't end up getting a forgiveness, we just don't see how the numbers are going to work, and sure enough, it did. So even if they look ugly, I would encourage you to go forward and try. And let's see, and just another reminder, if I was going to save this form in my system, I would use Adobe 11 so I could save it in her folder, and then you can use it over and over. Okay. And, you know, it looks like we're already at the noon hour. We can go ahead and do one more example to show you how useful our form is. We had a client that was denied a loan modification. I'm going to go ahead and just fill in some basic information here. On this client, they told us that she had excessive forbearance. And what excessive forbearance means is that they're not able to reamortize that mortgage over a term that's going to make it to the 31%. So if their escrow and the P&I payment and all of that together won't target 31%, it's higher, they call that excessive forbearance. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and see if it will work if you do something different after they tell you the numbers. So let's just throw in here real quick that she makes $3,021 a month. She has a husband as a co-borrower. So let's go ahead and add his information. And that's a spouse. And then he is making, by self-employment income, $1,182 a month. We're going to click that, so we'll add it in. Somebody asked a question about what other expenses would you add here, and the answer to that question is maybe flood insurance. You know, some people have flood insurance, not just homeowners and taxes. Sometimes they have escrow shortages, and in this scenario, that's in fact what kept us. At first, we got denied, and then we turned it around because she had an escrow shortage. So let me add these numbers in, and I'll show you when we need those additional lines about other expenses. So the insurance was $205 a month. Then we have the taxes at $22265. Then we have homeowners insurance at $2216. Whoops. Then she's got an escrow shortage that the lender shared with us of the total amount of her shortage. They wanted to pay it over 12 months. So I'm going to put in the amount they told us. So that was a monthly amount of $388. So she definitely qualifies for HAMP, but let's put those numbers in and see where they end up at. So she is at $351,688 is her principal balance. And we're just going to say that includes the arrearages. So when we come down here and we look at these numbers, she's at 45%, even if we do 2% over 480 months. So we need a forbearance at least. And this is a Fannie Mae loan. I clicked off the Fannie Mae verification, so we know we're only going to get a 30% forbearance. Then when we do this, look, it doesn't work. We can't get down to 31%, so that is excessive forbearance. So what we did was the lender said they could only spread out that escrow shortage over 12 months. But when you look at the HAMP guidelines, they say that the lender's supposed to do everything they can to resolve an escrow shortage. And in most instances, you see that they do it over a 5-year period. So if you took that escrow shortage and you spread it out over 60 months, then that new number is only $77.60. So look at that. Boom. We got to the 31%. They could just do a slightly less forbearance or a little higher rate, and we get to the 31%. So we actually had to appeal this decision, and we sent in our analysis form and showed them, hey, if you take that escrow shortage over 60 months, then we won't have excessive forbearance, and we were able to get an approval for our client. So let's see, we had a couple of questions. The household expenses, let's say that a borrower makes too much money. They make $10,000 a month, and they have a spouse on the note for $3,000, and their current mortgage payment is, let's just say it's $1,800. So right here you see that no, they don't qualify for HAMP because their current mortgage payment is already lower than 31% of their income. So in that instance, under the HAMP Tier 2 and the traditional loan mods, they're going to do market rate. So if they did a 4% market rate over 480 months, then we're getting down to a reasonable payment. So then we need to know what's the net income. So after taxes, insurance, all of those items, in this instance, let's say that their net income is $9,000 after those deductions. And then let's say their expenses are $7,000. So then this form at the bottom will show you that the surplus, he has a surplus either way they do it. So this is comparing this payment, and then this column, if they did a forbearance, shows it would be a larger surplus. So as long as we're within our acceptable range, like this loan, let's see what city mortgage comes up. A lot of them are in between 10% and 42%. So as you can see, in this client that made a lot of money was with city mortgage, we hit that 10% threshold, so they were able to qualify him. And this couple, you know, he made a lot of money, but they had a lot of expenses because they can't get help with their children in college because of their income. So this savings on their mortgage payment really made a difference, because their actual payment was like $2,600, and we've gotten them down to, I think it was $1,600 was the bottom line. So when you have a non-HAMP, you want to fill in this net income and less expenses, so you know, do I have a surplus or do I have a deficiency, and especially with FHA also. So, you know, that really went by fast. It's already noon. I'm sure everybody wants to go have their lunch on a Friday, so I'm going to end here. I just want to let you know that, you know, this form is phenomenal, but you do have to have knowledge of some of the different loan mod types, so we sure encourage you to. So please know that we have an upcoming workshop in Las Vegas. We do a lot here in Orlando, and we have our materials online with mortgage modification education. And then B&HLegal Forms, this is where you can purchase the qualified analysis worksheet. It is an introductory rate of $4.99. We hope you will find it as valuable as we have for our firm, because it's really made a difference of helping people. And I want to let you know, if you did attend the webinar today, we are also going to have an offer for $4.79. So if you'd like to purchase the worksheet today, please go to our website, and you can purchase it there for $4.79 if you attended the workshop. And I'll just pull up the website. You can go to B&HLegalForms.com, and you fill out the information here and make your purchase. Thank you.